Hello everyone, welcome to Literary Paradise. Today I'll talk about Ode to Evening, which is a beautifully composed poem by William Collins. Collins was a pre-romantic poet, and we can also call him as one of the forerunners of the Romantic Revival. Collins comes under this category because he employed the literary diction of the Augustan age, and the themes he took up for his poetry are very close to the themes discussed by our Romantic poets. So it's clear that Collins belongs to a time that falls between two major periods, and this time is known as the transition period that contains the characters of two distinctly different periods. I'm moving on to the poem now. See, Ode is a lyrical poem that glorifies the addressee. And here, Collins is idealizing evening as a chaste maiden and as a beautiful nymph. So we can also say that this poem of Collins is dedicated to the goddess of evening and evening's daughters known as Hesperides in the Greek mythology. These daughters are personifications of the golden rays of sunset and are also called nymphs of the west. Before I start this poem, I would like to inform you that this poem is written in a single stanza, but still we can divide it into three parts. Like in the first part of this poem, our poet hails evening, praises her, and aspires to do something to please her. In the second phase, our poet pleads the goddess evening to bless him with peace. And the final phase can be taken as a description of evening from the poet's perspective. Collins addresses evening as Eve. It can be a reference to the biblical Eve, the first woman created by the Almighty. Let's start with the poem now. If aught of autumn stop or pastoral song, may hope, chaste Eve, to soothe thy modest ear, like thy own solemn springs, thy springs and dying gales, O nymph reserved, while now the bright-haired sun sits in yon western tent, whose cloudy skirts with breed ethereal wove, overhanging his wavy bed. So our poet is addressing evening as chaste Eve, and he is seeking her permission to sing something in her appreciation. He says that if Eve would like to hear a melodious song, and if she won't find any autumn music or pastoral song there, he will present his own lyric to her. Autumn music denotes a music produced by a pipe made up of a straw, having many holes in it. Pastoral song refers to the songs or ballads of the rustic people, right? Now poet says, when these kinds of music won't be available to amuse the beautiful Eve, poet would himself like to greet her, dedicating his own music to her, and he will be pleased if this harmony produced by him suits the delicate ears of Eve. See, the word spring has been repeated here. Firstly, it has been used for the spring season. Therefore, solemn spring refers to the charming and peaceful ambience of an evening in the spring season. And for the second time, it has been used to denote the streams and waterfalls. So the boisterous music of these streams and waterfalls is clearly audible when the day ends, as other noises, like noises being produced by humans and animals, become dormant by this time. Gales means storms and tempests. It means all these things, like the noisy waterfalls and the dying winds, are contributing to the solemn and pensive music running through the evening time. Here Collins delineates Eve as a melancholic maiden who is shy, meek, and thoughtful. Now it's clear that the time of evening is characterized by profound and somber music of streams and rustling noises of winds as well. Dying gales refers to the dying winds. Okay, it simply means that the winds that had been creating storms throughout the day are blowing mildly during this evening. O nymph reserved is another address to Eve, which suggests that the poet has been portraying Eve as a charming and thoughtful virgin. Now see how beautiful imagery our poet has produced as he has personified sun as a man wearing a skirt of bright colors, and he is ready to take rest inside the western tent of the beautiful Eve. Let me bring a realistic touch to these lines. Actually, our poet gets elected with a beautiful view of sunset, okay? And the sun is surrounded by some folds of clouds. And now he starts idealizing this sunset vista by calling Sun as a bright haired man who started his journey from the east, and now because his journey has been completed, so he needs to take rest in a tent which is owned by Eve, and this tent is situated in the far west. The clouds have been presented as the fabric of his skirt, and this skirt is overhanging upon the wavy bed of clouds. Now quickly move on to the next phase of this poem. Now air is hushed, save where the weak-eyed bat with short shrill shriek flits by on leaden wing, or where the beetle winds his small but sullen horn, as oft he rises amidst the twilight path, against the pilgrim, born in heedless hum. See, here poet feels that the winds are no more noisy and fierce. That's what he means by the hushed air. It simply means that the air is calm and silent now, and there are only two noises that are tearing the silence of this evening. First one is a sharp and shrill shriek of a bat, who has been described as a weak-eyed bird. Why? Because it's evening time and the darkness is about to drop. And you must be knowing that the bat is a nocturnal bird who cannot see in dark. So he acts according to the sound waves that he feels. So it simply means that the bat feels like his visibility has been decreased as it is getting dark. Another sound that is disturbing this silence is the somber and complaining horn-like sound, which is being produced by a beetle nearby. Pilgrim has two connotations here. It can indicate a person who is returning home after doing a toilsome work in his fields. So, in this context, poet is talking about the origin or about the habitat of this beetle. Thus, beetles are found in abundance near a water body that falls on the way of this pilgrim. Pilgrim can also refer to the bat who starts his pilgrimage of night in evening, as he is a night bird, and the humming of this beetle's wings sounds grumpy and complaining at this time. Next, now teach me, mate composed, to breathe some softened strain, whose numbers stealing through thy darkening veil may not unseemly with its stillness suit, as musing slow I hail thy genial loved return. The stanza commences by addressing Eve as a calm and demure mate. The poet is invoking her and requesting her to teach him about the delicate and solemn music that has been running through the entire landscape in the evening time. The poet wants to learn this music, which could be heard in the valleys of nature that are getting darker as the time of evening passes. And because he will learn this music from Eve, so the poet can expect that this music produced by him would suit the stillness of evening. It means that The music should not sound very sharp and unpleasant. It should be played in this way that it could glorify the beauty and serenity of evening. Now poet feels him thoughtless, and he says that in this state of his thoughtlessness, he can't say much and can only desire to hail the beautiful evening. Hail means to welcome. So here, poet aspires to welcome the loved and mirthful reappearance of Eve. For when thy folding star arising shows his pale circlet at his warning lamp, the fragrant hours and elves who slept in flowers the day, and many a nymph who wreathes her brows with sedge and sheds the freshening dew, and lovelier still, the pensive pleasure sweet, prepare thy shadowy car. See, this stanza is replete with beautiful imageries. The atmosphere is growing darker, and the stars are becoming more visible. Therefore, it's clear that the evening is about to depart and night is to drop very soon. Now, our thoughtful poet looks at the sky above, and some beautiful imageries burst into his mind. He is beholding the blinking stars above, but his chief focus lies in the evening star known as Hesperus in the Greek mythology. He describes this evening star as her folding star. See how beautiful image of the stars has been portrayed by the poet here. It seems as if the sky is a sheet with the stars woven in it, and this sheet gets folded up when the day begins, right? And it gets unfolded when the evening grows darker. Now poet says that the rising stars are looking more fascinating with their halo. Pale circlet or halo refers to a yellowish or golden circle around these stars that is making the evening view more pleasing and more beautiful. The poet describes this evening star as a warning lamp. Why? Because this natural lamp is like a beautiful indicator of the approaching night. Look, poet has painted evening as a mirthful celebration attended by beautiful elves and nymphs together. Now poet says that at this beautiful hour of starry evening, elves come out of their flowery beds. It's a fragrant hour because our poet can smell the aroma or the fragrance of the flowers nearby. See, elves are beautiful fairies, and you must have studied in fairy tales that these elves or fairies mark their appearance in the deserted and forlorn places where they find no human presence to disturb their mirthful gatherings. And now, because all human activities have been ceased, so it's the right time that the fairies should come out to start their celebration. Here Collins imagines that these fairies rest inside the buds and flowers during the day, and when they feel that it's dark enough, they come out and begin their joyful festival. Nymphs also attend this festival and make the evening more soothing by their joyous act of entertainment. These nymphs have been described to have tied the wreaths or bands of sedges around their forehead. And sometimes, during this entertainment, they take this grassy band out and flick it to shed water everywhere. So you can imagine these nymphs who have put on the wreaths of sedges means the grassy hairbands in their foreheads to celebrate this aromatic hour of evening by dancing and singing together. And during this performance, sometimes they are flinging off these wreaths, like when they get drenched with their forehead sweat. And these drops, which have been sprinkled by these nymphs, are found as fresh dew drops in the next morning. Now, poet says that these nymphs and fairies are completely devoted to Eve. So, when the hour of Eve's departure approaches, they all stop their festival and prepare the chariot of our beautiful Eve. Then lead calm waters where some shady lake cheers the lone heath, or some time-hallowed pile, or upland fallow's grape, reflects its last cool gleam. But when chill blustering winds or driving rain forbid my willing feet, be mine the hut that from the mountain side views wild and swelling floods, and hamlets brown and dim discovered spires, and hears their simple bell, and marks over all thy dewy fingers draw the gradual dusky veil. Now see, in these lines, poet is describing various stations through which the cart of our Eve would pass. Calm waters is another address to evening. Votress refers to a dedicated nun-like woman who is devoted to her vows of some kind. And in Eve's context, we can say that these vows are about her determination to keep her chaste or to descend on earth every day in a set time. Heaty Lake is a frozen lake. Now, poet says that the chariot of our Eve, which has been decorated by the elves and nymphs, leads her to a frozen lake which is situated in a heath. Heath is a barren and a forlorn place. See how marvelously Collins has presented beautiful imageries here. Now, another possible illustration for Eve can be a hallowed or a holy place, or it can be some distant uncultivated land which is gleaming with some last rays of the setting sun. Now, all of a sudden, poet wants to go out and enjoy the scenario, but a heavy rainfall occurs and it prevents him to step out. Now, Collins has no choice except to stay home and behold the beautiful view of departing evening and approaching night as well. So, from this hut that is situated on a mountain, our poet is watching the wild forest, the water streams, and the village nearby. Hamlet means village, and brown hamlet because it is getting dark and the actual paints of houses are not clearly visible to our poet who is looking at the scenario from a distant location. Apart from these things, Collins can see some towers or buildings, and meanwhile, he hears some bells ringing. It can be a church bell that conveys the end of the day and manifests the beginning of the night. Now, poet imagines that the beautiful Eve, who has been sitting on her chariot, drops her dark and dusky veil with her delicate and dewy fingers. So, this dropping down of a dark curtain stands for the arrival of night. In the next phase of this poem, we will find that the poet has elaborated evening of different seasons. See, while spring shall pour his showers as oft he wont, and bathe thy breathing tresses meekest Eve, while summer loves to sport beneath thy lingering light, while sallow autumn fills thy lap with leaves, or winter, yelling through the troublous air, affrights thy shrinking train, and rudely rends thy robes. So long, sure found beneath the sylvan shed, shall fancy friendship signs, rose-lipped health, thy gentlest influence own, and hymn thy favorite name. In these lines, we will see that all seasons have been personified, means they are attributed some human qualities. Spring season is characterized by outpours in evening because in this season Earth's temperature starts rising up and it results into evaporation of water from Earth's surface that causes rains in the evening time. So poet says that the spring pours down her showers and consequently the hair of our delicate Eve gets drenched. Summer has been portrayed as a playful child who extends his evening play until it gets dark. You all know the fact that the days are lengthier in the summer season, right? So our poet supposes this season as a mischievous child who loves to stay in Eve's company. And for this reason, he willingly extends his play and delays the departure of Eve. Next comes autumn, with its dry tree stems and decaying leaves. So autumn has its own beauty, as you also have seen red and yellow leaves falling from the trees and everywhere. A layer of these dead leaves enriches the beauty of nature. So poet has delineated evening as a beautiful woman who is enjoying the beauty of autumn. And autumn also responds her by flicking the leaves of trees into the lap of this woman. So finally winter comes. See, in literature, winter has been described as a deadly season. It is characterized by dry and chilly winds which make us shiver with cold. And because from the very outset of this poem, poet has been describing Eve in a person, so in these final lines also, he has attributed some humanly features to her. As he says that these rapid and chilly winds penetrate through the robes of Eve and make her shiver with cold. So we have seen how beautifully our poet has depicted evening in different seasons of the year. Now Collins concludes this poem by highlighting the importance of evening to human beings. He says that under the sylvan means forest, so he says that many important things like fancy, friendships, science, and health all cultivate under a pleasing shadow of Eve's forest. How? Because all fruitful works of art and science that require quietness for their development begin in the evening only. Evening is a perfect time for rambling and for gatherings, so it helps to form friendships. And evening cultivates good health as it's the time when most people come out to play. So poet says that all these things are the fruits of evening and this is the reason that people hail her and sing the hymns in her appreciation. So thank you everyone. If you find this lecture helpful, hit the like button below and do subscribe to our channel.